Sunday I had earmarked as being my first park day, because there were lots of things that were new that I hadn't been able to do before, that I wanted to go and experience, and also just the fun things that I couldn't do at Halloween Horror Nights, right? So, Islands of Adventure is closed when Halloween Horror Nights is on. So, I wasn't able to do anything over there. My plan when I first booked this trip was to do Velocicoaster, was to do Hagrid's, was to do the Bourne Stuntacular. Because of hurting my neck and my back, I was concerned about doing those two more extreme rides. So I decided, if you can do one, which one are you going to do? And I decided to do Hagrid's. So I was like, right, I'm going to do that and just see how my body reacts to it, When I woke up Sunday, I woke up about 9 o'clock. So I'd had about 7 hours sleep, which was a bit more than I would normally get. But I was achy, and I decided to go back to Walgreens and get some more pain relief, like get some patches or a spray or something. So that's how I started my day, was going back to... I went to a Walgreens the other end of iDrive near the big McDonald's, just because it seemed to have... It was a bigger store, so I thought they'd had more product in there. So I went down there, got some pain relief, went back to the hotel, got myself ready for spending a day at Universal. While I was there on the Saturday, I noticed the freestyle cups they had for Halloween Horror Nights. And there was one that was like the retro marquee collection that they'd been doing before. That was $29.99 for the cup, and then a day's worth of Coke freestyle refills. And they had a Halloween Horror Nights one, which was $18.99. All of these plus tax, with your refills as well for the day. So I decided to go for the Halloween Horror Nights one, just because I really liked the retro cup, but it was basically a plastic tumbler with just a paper insert. And I thought that's going to be fine until, it starts to leak a little bit, or water gets in there, and then, you're going to lose it. So I thought I'd just go for the kind of like printed Halloween Horror Nights cup instead. So I had that with me all day, and you can go and use it to get any drinks in the freestyle machine. You can also go to where they've got icy machines and have an icy if you want instead. So at one point I had a cola icy as my drink. The only thing I didn't like about the freestyle cups, neither of them came with straws or anything. So that was a bit of a pain, but it is what it is. So anyway, got my Coke freestyle cup, and when I got to the parks about midday, there was a Bourne Stuntacular not that long after being in the parks. So I went and asked what time they let people in, and he told me. So I went over to the Jurassic Park tribute store, which was still open, which I didn't realise was still going to be open at this time. Had a look through there. Really nice. I love a tribute store anyway, but this one was particularly well done. So I had fun walking around there, and then made my way back over to the Bourne Stuntacular. I'd seen clips of it online when it first debuted, so I kind of knew what to expect from it. But that said, actually seeing it in real life, very impressive. The timing was slightly off at times, with the actions to the noises, but in general, it was a very impressive show. I mean, I loved Terminator 2 3D, but it was very kind of dated the last time that we saw it. So it was good that they freshened it up, and it was a great show. I was really glad to have seen it. So definitely recommend that one. Before I'd gone into Bourne, I had also gone over to VillainCon to get myself a return time for Minions Blast. because I'd obviously not done that either, having just opened a few months ago. So after I left Bourne, that was my next stop, was to go to VillainCon. The Minions attraction is fun. The guns were quite weighty, which I was surprised about. They were, quite heavy. My arms were getting tired coming up to the end of the attraction. But what I didn't like was how it works. So you get a cursor on the screen, but because you're on a moving walkway, a constantly moving walkway, you stand on a spot, and obviously there's all people standing next to you as well. But I found it very hard to actually remember what my cursor was, what colour it was, and what it looked like. So it was fun, but it wasn't as enjoyable as I expected it to. I imagine as it kind of gets a bit less busy, it might, space out a little bit, and then it might be easier to kind of get around that issue. But it was good, it was fun, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped or expected to. So then I just went around Universal Studios thinking about what else I wanted to do. I hadn't gone on Gringotts at this point, so I quite wanted to do that. Every time I'd gone, it either broken down or the queue was too long and it was going to stop me doing something else. So I hadn't done it, so I thought, I'll go over there. And it was another quite long queue, and I thought, I'm just gonna give it up for the day and go over to Islands of Adventure. Now, what I was also doing was I was paying attention to what time it was and what people were doing for Stay and Scream, and this was about 2:00 at this point, and there was already like a big queue forming for Stay and Scream. And I thought, okay, so I can either start getting ready for Stay and Scream now, or I can spend time doing more stuff around the parks and going over to Islands of Adventure. And I just thought, sod it. Again, because I'm on my own, because I can make these decisions, I thought, you know what, I'm just not going to do Stay and Scream this year. It was so hot that day, and to be just stood in a pen waiting to go into, houses early, I just thought, I can't do it to myself. So I went on the train. I got the train over to Hogsmeade from King's Cross and went over to Islands of Adventure. So as I was at Hogsmeade, I decided to go to Hagrid's and get a return time. I got a return time of 6:00. So I knew that I had time to go and get something to eat, as well as do other attractions over at the islands. So I went, and I was going to go and do Jurassic Park River Adventure, but it had gone down for a delay, so I couldn't go on that. Ripshaw Falls was also the same, which I've never done Ripshaw Falls, so I thought I might just do it because it was so hot and because I'd never done it before. But again, that was on a delay as well, so I was like, okay, well, I can't do that either. So I went over to Marvel and did Spider-Man. I then went back and did Kong, which I love doing as well. And then I thought, well, I've got a while yet. I can go and get something to eat. And I'd just seen that over in Diagon Alley, the Three Broomsticks. I think that's where Three Broomsticks is. Whichever restaurant it is in Diagon Alley, anyway, had just had this vegan shepherd's pie. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go and try that. That'd be quite nice. So I ordered it. I had trouble ordering on the app. For some reason, it just wouldn't accept my order. So I had to go to the till point and place the order there. And I got it. And, I'm British, right? So I know what shepherd's pie is. Well, this was a pasty. This was a vegan meat and potato pasty, essentially. sorry, used Beyond Mince, I think it was, as like the filling with potatoes and onions and carrots and what have you. And it came with some wedges, and it came with a mustard dip, and it was really nice. Oh, it's the Leaky Cauldron, isn't it? I think in Diagon Alley. Anyway, it was really nice. So despite it not being a proper shepherd's pie, it was really nice, and I would absolutely recommend it, even if you're a meat eater. Like, it was really, really good. So then I went back over to Islands of Adventure in time for me to go on Hagrid's. First problem I had was I couldn't get a locker. So it just seemed to be all the lockers were taken constantly. Even when somebody was getting their stuff out of a locker, it was still saying they were unavailable. So that was a bit of a performance, but eventually I got myself a locker so I could put my stuff in. I got my card signed, got into the queue, the express queue, had it scanned again, got on. Because I was essentially a single rider, when I went through, they got someone else from the standby queue to go on with me. I managed to go on the bike for my first time doing Hagrid's, and I'd heard a lot of hyperbole about the attraction and about how good it was, and the new best ride in Florida and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm sure it's going to be good. I'm sure it's going to be fun. But I mean, how good or fun could it really be? Well, the answer's very. Like, I literally did not stop grinning from the moment it took off to the moment it came back into the station. I thought, what a wonderful attraction. Like, it's so exciting and thrilling and fun, and the animatronics are decent. Not the best, but they are more than adequate. The theming's all good. It was brilliant. By far the best Harry Potter attraction that they've done. Just really, really good work. And I thought, I really want to go on Tron. I love Tron. I want to see Tron. But I thought, I know that Tron attraction is nothing in comparison to Hagrid's. Nothing at all. So I'm glad that's what I decided to do this trip instead. Really, really, really enjoyable. Loved every second of it. Just great stuff. So I had a good time at Islands of Adventure, and after Hagrid's, I was like, right, time to walk back around to go to Halloween Horror Nights. And the only thing I don't like about Universal is that you have to walk so far to get to where you want to go. So because the train's not running at that time of night, your only way to get from Islands of Adventure to Halloween Horror Nights is by walking all the way through Islands of Adventure, all the way around the lagoon, or down past the Hard Rock, and then back into the parks. It takes a good 20-25 minutes to do. So it's the only thing I don't like about that, traversing between the parks. But, it's a small thing. First world problems, right? So my last night of Halloween Horror Nights, I managed to catch up with a friend that I've made on Twitter. I said I was going to be in town, and if he was going to be there, let me know. And we met up, spent about 25 minutes together. Really nice meeting him. It was just lovely finally being able to speak in person rather than like just exchange messages. He was waiting to try and see the Megans as well. He'd been a few times at this point to Halloween Horror Nights and hadn't seen them once. And unfortunately that night wasn't his lucky night either. He didn't get to see them then either. But so that was how my night started. And then it was just trying to catch up with the remaining houses. And I said to him, look, these are the houses I've done. What other ones do you recommend that I must see before I go? And he said he really liked the Darkest Deal, which was one of the ones that I didn't know too much about, and it wasn't one that I was immediately like, okay, I need to do that. But I was like, okay, that's cool. Like that's a good recommendation. So at that point, I hadn't done The Exorcist, I hadn't done Dr. Oddfellows, I hadn't done The Darkest Steel, and I wasn't particularly bothered about The Exorcist at all. That was a one that I just wasn't that bothered about. I'm not a big fan of the original film. I'm not that fussed about this new film that's coming out, and especially when you do a house for a film that hasn't come out yet and you've got no real kind of context. I was like, how's that going to work? So anyway, in the end, I decided to make that the priority. I also got return time for The Last of Us, and just had another kind of like easy night. So yeah, went and did managed to do The Last of Us again. I meant to do Nightmare Fuel, and every time that I wanted to do Nightmare Fuel, I had a return time for something else. So it just didn't work out for me to do. So it was a bit of a shame that I didn't get to see it, but it is what it is. But The Darkest Steel was really interesting. Apparently it's kind of like based on an urban legend about a blues singer. And the problem with it was in a tent house, which is obviously a temporary tent that they put up to host for Halloween Horror Nights. I thought they did a really good job with the space, but it was a shame it wasn't in a more permanent kind of building, because I felt they could have done a bit more than they had. But it was very creepy. I didn't really understand the story that well, but the more I read up on it afterwards, the more it kind of made sense as to what it was. But it's about kind of like doing a deal with the devil and being possessed by the devil to become a really good musician, but kind of like losing your soul because of it. All the actors in it I thought were great. Probably the best acted house that I saw, for sure. But yeah, really, really nice. Really enjoyed it. So yeah. And I just, for the last night, I just kind of like chilled out in some of the scare zones. I went and I'd been recommended getting a vegan hot dog from the Hot Dog Hall of Fame. So I decided to have a bit of a break, walk over there, try and get that. They'd sold out. So in the end, I ended up going up to Breadbox and getting a sandwich from there instead. And then went back to Halloween Horror Nights. And by the time I got back, the queues had come down even more. So a lot of the houses, even The Last of Us, had gone down to 40 minutes, which is the lowest I'd seen it the whole weekend. So my top tip when you go to Halloween Horror Nights, if you can last longer, if you can stay later towards the end of the event, the houses become much quicker to like join a queue and get through. So that's if you can. I mean, it opens till 2 a.m. It's late. I appreciate that, but for a night owl, that's kind of convenient. So in the end, the only two houses I didn't do were Oddfellows, Dr. Oddfellows, and The Exorcist, and I was more than happy with that. I managed to go through the houses again that I wanted to. I managed to do Dueling Dragons again before I left, and just had a great time. So, sad to walk out of Halloween Horror Nights for the last time on the Sunday, but I felt like I'd made the most of my time. Definitely got value for money from the experience, and just enjoyed myself, which is the main thing, right? So this is where I interrupt this once again to say that I had forgotten to talk about another house I did on my last night, and that was Chucky. Now, I've never been a massive fan of Chucky. I don't think I've watched any of the original Child's Play films. I did see Bride of Chucky, I think maybe Seed of Chucky, but I'm not a massive fan. However, it was the first house that had been announced for Halloween Horror Nights, and it was one that
you know, people actually went to the event just for that house. Like Simon Isbell over at HHE, he made a decision to go to Halloween Horror Nights because Chucky was going to be there, and it was his favourite horror character. And a lot of people love Chucky, so I get it. I understand why it's a big deal, and it was a big thing for the event. It's the first time in Halloween Horror Nights history that they announced something for next year's event just after the event the previous year had ended. Like, it was either the day after or on the final day of the event they announced Chucky will be at HHN 32. So this was a massive deal. But I'm just giving you the context because I wasn't too bothered by a Child's Play house or a Chucky house. This was based on the recent Chucky series that is, I believe, in its 3rd season currently. And it was one of the houses that always had a big queue. So people obviously really wanted to go and experience it. So I went. And I think it was about 45 minutes from stepping into the disability queue before I got to go into it. And it was absolutely not worth my time. I just didn't enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. I didn't think it was scary at all. It just focused on some of the famous kills that he's done in the series. There was a video in the queue which explained, you know, what the house was about, and it shows you some of the kills that you were going to see during the house. It just felt like a bit of a weird wax museum. The best bit is the animatronic Chucky at the entrance to the house. I just didn't enjoy it, and in fact the people in front of me were like, "Was that it? That's what we waited for," and that's how I felt. So, you know, it has been a very divisive house this year. People either love it or hate it. It's the Marmite of Halloween Horror Night houses. But for me, it just wasn't for me. I just did not enjoy it. I'm glad people did, but it was an absolute one and done. I had no intention of trying to make it through that house a second time. Sorry.